I had 3 weeks to train for this 5K, and I want to be honest about how I used those 3 weeks. I did not use them for training. And I know that sounds like a dramatic opening, but it's also true. My May 5K was on the 30th. This one was on the 21st. So instead of having my normal 4 weeks in between races, I had 3 weeks. When I saw that on the calendar, my brain did what it loves to do when it's trying to avoid a consequence. It rounded up. It said, okay, basically a month. We have time, we're fine. Girl, it was not basically a month. It was 1 week less than a month, and that missing week had a job. So this is not the video where I show you the perfect training arc. There is no montage where I got every run done. There is no clean, I followed the plan and this is what happened moment. This is the honest version. I thought I had more time. I had less time than I thought, and I used that time less intentionally than I meant to. I got nervous about the heat. I chose real life over the training plan more than once, and I still showed up today on my race. So hi, I'm Shay, and let's talk about what actually happened. The first mistake was the calendar math, and I want to sit with that for a second because this is one of those things that feels small until you're living inside of it. 3 weeks sound like time. Sounds like enough runway to get a few good runs in, get your head together, do the responsible thing. But 3 weeks is also short enough that if you spend the first week telling yourself you have time, now you only have 2 weeks. And if one of those weeks get busy, hot, emotional, or just lifey, suddenly you're not preparing anymore. You're reacting. That is what happened. So I did not wake up one day and decide, let me not train for this race. It was not that dramatic. It was quieter than that. It was one skipped run that felt reasonable, then another one that felt explainable, then a day where I told myself, I'll make it up later. Then later became next week, and then next week became race week. And this is the part that got me, because I do this with so many things. I do it with training, I do it with money, I do it with editing videos, I do it with literally anything that gives me just enough time to lie to myself politely. I will say, I have until the end of the month. And somehow that sentence feels responsible even though I haven't actually made a plan. But time does not become useful just because you technically have it. You have to assign it a job. And I did not assign these weeks a clear enough job. I thought I had a month. I had 3 weeks. I used too much of that time like it was background noise. Here's the part I almost didn't put in the video. A lot of the runs I skipped because I chose to spend time with my boyfriend instead. And I want to be very clear about something because the internet loves a villain and we're not doing that today. He did not ask me to skip those runs. He was not sitting there sabotaging my 5K era. He was not like, don't become her babe. Absolutely not. Multiple times he was the one asking me, don't you have a run today? Weren't you supposed to train today? And multiple times I was the one saying, I can wait. So this is not a story about how my relationship got in the way of my goals. This is a story about me making choices and then being honest with myself about those choices. Some nights training lost on purpose because I wanted to be with him more than I wanted to log miles. And I know the polished version of me could skip over that. I could just say, life got busy, which would be true, but not specific enough. The real version is that my priorities shifted this month. And some of those shifts were beautiful. Some of those nights were worth it. I'm not even gonna pretend like they weren't. But I also don't wanna use life is happening as this vague little blanket that covers over every decision I made. Because it was not just life. It was me. I chose him. I chose rest. I chose ease. I chose the night in. I chose the thing that felt good in the moment. And I don't think that makes me unserious about my goals. I think it makes me a person. A person with a life, a person with love in it, a person who's still trying to learn how to hold multiple priorities without dropping herself in the process. This is the nuance I want to keep. I can love my life and still need better boundaries around my goals. I can choose my person some nights and still be honest that the training plan paid the price. Both things can be true. The other part of this that I did not expect was how nervous I felt about the heat. And I know summer running is one of those topics people will just be like, just run earlier, just hydrate, just slow down, just wear lighter clothes. And yes, correct, awesome, helpful, perfect. But also emotionally, summer running can just be intimidating, especially when you're already undertrained, especially when you're in a body that people love to underestimate, especially when you've had enough running experiences where your brain is just like, are you sure we're safe doing this? For 3 whole weeks, there was this little dread sitting in the background. Not loud, not dramatic, just there. Every time I thought about going outside to run, I could feel the thought, what if my body can't handle this heat? And I think that fear made it easier to skip runs because it's too hot sounds practical. It sounds responsible, respectable even. But sometimes it's too hot was just the easier sentence because the real sentence was, I'm scared. And I don't want to shame that version of myself. I actually think she needed honesty more than shame. Because once I could name the fear, I could stop pretending it was just laziness. I was nervous, I was undertrained, the heat was real, and race day was still coming. And race day felt different because I knew the truth before I even got there. I could not hype myself into pretending I had prepared the way I meant to because I knew I didn't. And there's something humbling about standing at the start of something with the full awareness that you're not bringing your best preparation. You're bringing what you actually have. Not the ideal version, not the edited version, the real one. And that is where I had to make a decision. Was I gonna spend the whole race punishing myself for the training I didn't do? Or was I gonna work with the body and the mind that I showed up with that day? Because the race was not gonna pause and let me go back 3 weeks. The starting line does not care that you meant to do more. The starting line only asks, are you here? And I was. I was there undertrained. I was there nervous. I was there aware that this was not the most prepared version of myself. And I still had to decide to move. That is the part that felt familiar to me because that is exactly what it feels like to open the banking app once a month on a month where you know the budget did not budget. But avoiding it does not make you safer. You open it anyway. You look anyway. You tell the truth anyway. You take the next logical step from the information you actually have. That is what this race felt like. Not a celebration of being unprepared, not a lesson that training doesn't matter, because it does matter. But also, being unprepared does not have to be the reason that you disappear. I ran the race undone, and undone still counted. I do not want the takeaway from this video to be, it's fine, you don't have to train, just show up. That is not the lesson. Please do not use me as evidence in the group chat that preparation is optional. The lesson is more honest than that. The lesson is that imperfect preparation does not have to turn into avoidance. If the month got away with you, you still have to tell the truth. If the budget got away from you, you still have to look. If the training plan got away from you, you still have to decide who you're gonna be next. For me, this race showed me 3 things. 1, 3 weeks is not basically a month. I need to stop rounding time up just because it makes me feel better. 2, my relationship is not the problem, but vague boundaries around my goals can be a problem. If I want date night and training to both exist, I need a plan that respects both. 3, summer running needs a real strategy. Not fear, not avoidance, but an actual plan. Earlier runs, slower pace, more hydration, realistic expectations, and a body-first approach. And honestly, that feels like the most financially fit, becoming her lesson of all of this. Not perfection, not punishment, information. I know more now, so I get to move differently next time. I had 3 weeks. I did not use them the way I meant to. I still showed up. Undone counted. Now I just adjust. If you are in your own version of this, unprepared, nervous, trying to decide if it still counts, here's what I want you to know. It counts when you tell the truth. It counts when you show up with what you actually have. It counts even more when you let the truth change how you move next time. So thank you for watching this honest little debrief about my 5K. If this sounded like you in any area of your life, subscribe and hang out with me here. We are becoming her, but we're doing it with receipts, realistic timelines, and the occasional humbling race day.